Welcome to Her Remarkable History. Remember to support, subscribe. The woman who gave Henry VIII all he ever wanted, Bessie Blount. Elizabeth Blount, or Bessie as she was known, was born at Kinlet in Shropshire around the year 1500, and by the time she arrived at King Henry VIII's court, she would have only been a teenager. It is even believed that as Bessie and her family fell under the jurisdiction of Catherine of Aragon and her first husband Arthur Tudor, that Catherine may have met Bessie when she was only a baby, whilst in residence at Ludlow Castle in 1501 to 1502. It is also possible that Bessie's parents used this connection to place her into the Queen's household. Bessie's upbringing is somewhat of a mystery, but it is believed that she was educated by her mother and other female members of her household. She is said to have been well-mannered and held all the qualities suitable for a young lady at the time. She could sing and dance and was able to play a musical instrument. She was able to undertake needlework and knew her place amongst men. And most importantly, she was devout in the Catholic faith. By the autumn of 1513, Bessie had become a maid of honour to Queen Catherine. Bessie is first linked to Henry VIII during the Twelfth Night celebrations in 1514, when King Henry chose Bessie to be his dancing partner. At this time, Bessie was around 15 years of age and the king around 23. Whilst it may seem like an extreme age difference, it was not uncommon at the English court for a man to partake in courtly love with a younger woman. This would have consisted of writing her love notes and giving the woman tokens of love and admiration. Bessie was considered to be extremely beautiful, eloquent and gracious, and Henry was tall, handsome and athletic, and the match between the pair became well known. It is not known how long Bessie and Henry were together, but it is known that in the October of 1518, Bessie fell pregnant with the king's son. The king is now known to have kept his mistress's relationships as private as possible, and the pregnant Bessie then disappeared from court, taken in secret by Henry's leading minister Thomas Wolsey, into the safety of the Essex countryside. There in Blackmore, at the Augustinian priory of St. Lawrence, Bessie gave birth to her son, Henry Fitzroy, the king's only acknowledged illegitimate child. For the duration of the summer, Henry stayed at two of his nearby properties, which would have allowed him to easily visit his newborn. It is unknown if Catherine of Aragon, Henry's wife at the time, was aware of the situation, or if she was, what she may have thought to it all. The name Fitzroy is a Norman French surname meaning son of the king, and it was common for illegitimate children of the king to receive this name. Henry VIII publicly acknowledged this boy as his own, and his godfather was Cardinal Thomas Wolsey, who was the right-hand man of the king. Little Henry's care was overseen by Cardinal Wolsey, and on the 7th of June 1525, just before his 6th birthday, the little boy was elected as Knight of the Garter, the most prestigious order in England, and then on the 18th of June 1525, at Bridewell Palace, he was created Earl of Nottingham, as well as given the double dukedom of Richmond and Somerset. As Earl of Nottingham and Duke of Richmond and Somerset, the 6-year-old boy was given lands and revenues around £4,845, a staggering sum of money at the time. Bessie was then, possibly as a reward from Henry for giving him the son he so desired, was retired from court, and a marriage was arranged to Gilbert Tailboys, a servant in Cardinal Wolsey's household. Some sources say this was 1519 and others say 1522. The couple settled on Gilbert's family estates at Kyme in Lincolnshire, and despite being far from court, Bessie was not forgotten by the king. She continued to receive Henry's favour with various grants between 1522 and 1539, and New Year's gifts throughout her life. And in 1532, Henry sent her a gilt goblet with a cover weighing over 35 ounces. Bessie and Gilbert had 3 children together, Elizabeth, George and Robert, before his death in 1530. But the uncertainty of some of the birth dates leave historians to believe that Elizabeth especially was fathered by Henry. Gilbert Tailboys had settled part of his Lincolnshire estates on Elizabeth, giving her an annual income of £200 a year for life. Following his death, Bessie appears to have been happy to stay in Lincolnshire, instead of returning to her Shropshire roots or an unwelcoming royal court. After Gilbert's marriage to Bessie, his financial income increased dramatically through a series of lands and grants, rising from £66 to £343. In 1523, Gilbert was appointed sheriff in Lincolnshire, and then in 1529 he was created Baron Tailboys of Kyme. But tragically, Gilbert died in April of 1530, leaving Bessie a widow with 3 children. The death of her first husband left Bessie a wealthy woman, and because of this she was courted by Lord Leonard Grey, the younger brother of the Thomas Grey, Marquess of Dorset. Lord Grey visited Bessie in 1532, and she welcomed him warmly into her home. However, she was taken back by his marriage request. Although Grey was around 20 years older than Bessie, the Greys were a wealthy and well-to-do family, and the marriage would have benefited Bessie greatly. However, Bessie decided to marry Lord Edward Fiennes Clinton. Although being a descendant of William I, Lord Edward was not a man of great status as Lord Grey would have been. Born in 1512, Lord Edward was around 14 years younger than Bessie, and said to be very handsome. The pair must have made quite a striking couple, with Bessie still being very beautiful. But with no great need to remarry, for Bessie was a well-off woman in her own right. They married sometime in 1534 to 35, and the couple went on to have 3 daughters together. Although de Clinton had his family seat in Kent, they settled on Bessie's Lincolnshire estates. They had 3 daughters, Bridget, Catherine and Margaret, and whilst Bessie appears to have stayed away from court, Clinton's marriage to the king's former mistress brought him royal favour. He attended on the king at Calais and Boulogne in 1532 and acted as a cupbearer at the coronation of Anne Boleyn in 1533. Following the Lincolnshire uprising of 1536, one of several rebellions which formed the Pilgrimage of Grace, Clinton was rewarded for staying loyal to the king. Most Lincolnshire gentlemen had joined the rebellion, which then dissolved the monastery of Sempringham. Bessie sadly lived long enough to survive her son, Henry Fitzroy, who died quite suddenly at St James's Palace on the 22nd or 23rd of July 1536. There is a debate as to what exactly killed the young man of just 17 years of age. It is believed that Fitzroy died of tuberculosis, where another suggestion put forward was pneumonic plague. There are no records on Bessie's thoughts or feelings regarding the loss of her son, but one can imagine the great grief and loss that she may have felt. Bessie then served briefly as a lady-in-waiting to Anne of Cleves, but passed away sometime around 1540. Bessie outlived her oldest son by 3 or 4 years. There are very few records of Bessie's life after the death of her son, but it appears that Bessie died in childbirth, or shortly after giving birth, sometime between the 6th of February 1539 and the 2nd of January 1540, at the age of only 40 or 41. Sadly, not even the place of Bessie's burial has been recorded. Thank you for watching, and to support, please subscribe to Her Remarkable History. Thank you.